60 hours of GPS battery life on an Apple Watch? 60. Let's talk about it. Welcome back, I'm Dave from Chase the Summit, and today we're going to be talking about the new low power mode in a GPS activity on the Apple Watch Ultra, Series 8, and SE Gen 2. When these new Apple Watches were announced, Apple teased about a new activity low power mode for GPS activities that'll be coming later this fall. This new optimized power mode would allow users to extend the battery life of their Apple Watch during specific GPS activities like walking, running, and hiking. It would take the battery life of this Apple Watch Ultra with default settings out of the box, being around 12 hours in a GPS activity, and boost it all the way up to 60 hours of use with this new low power mode. Personally, as an ultra marathon runner and a long distance hiker myself, I found this to be very interesting because while the Apple Watch Ultra's battery life has been hugely improved over previous models like the Series 7, it's still not quite enough for something like a 100-mile ultra marathon unless you're an elite athlete that can run really fast or you're charging on the go. Just recently, Apple released watchOS 9.1 in beta, which includes this new low power mode feature. So of course, I've downloaded this beta firmware to my Apple Watch Ultra, and I've been testing it for a few days now. In this video today, I'm going to walk through what watchOS 9.1 beta includes, how to enable this new low power mode, how it works, what kind of accuracy I'm getting from it as compared to something like a Garmin, and all of the details, and that's what we're going to talk about today. Before we dive into the good stuff, if you find this video helpful or entertaining, please consider giving me a thumbs up and subscribing to the channel down below. I'm really trying to hit 100,000 subscribers before the end of the year, and it'd be great if you could help me out. Also, if you're planning on picking up an Apple Watch Ultra or any Apple Watch for that matter, check out the links in the description down below because those do help support my channel and they cost nothing extra to use, so use them. With that stuff out of the way, let's dive further into this new low power activity mode. The first thing to note is that it's not available for all activities. It's only available for running, walking, or hiking. So if you're trying to do this while you're cycling or strength workouts, I don't know why you do that, but it doesn't work in any other activities, only running, walking, and hiking. Another thing to note is that this new low power mode is not compatible with custom workouts or pace plans or things like that. It's only available if you're doing like an open workout. And the final thing to keep in mind is that this feature is only available if you're using the native Apple Workouts app. It doesn't work in Workout Doors or third-party apps yet. It's only available in the Workouts app that comes from Apple. So as it stands right now, there are 3 different ways to record an activity, and it's pretty confusing. First of all, there is a normal outdoor GPS activity. That's like default settings. When you take the watch out of the box and go for a run, you'll get about 12 hours of use in default settings in a normal outdoor activity. Second is low power mode. Low power mode is different than this new low power mode, and we'll talk about that in a minute. First, low power mode turns off always on display, and it reduces the connectivity to your phone. So it won't be pulling updates from your phone constantly. It'll only check in every now and then to save battery life. And in low power mode, you can get up to 17 hours in a GPS activity, which is pretty solid. But if you need more battery life, you can use this new feature called low power mode with reduced GPS and heart rate readings. That's a really long name for this feature, but that's what it's called. This new low power mode is going to use all of the same tactics as the regular low power mode to save battery life, like turning off the always on display and reducing the connectivity to your phone. However, on top of that, it's also going to reduce how often it checks in your GPS position and your heart rate readings in order to save even more battery life. And in this mode, you can get up to 60 hours of use in a GPS activity, which is kind of crazy. Keep in mind that all of these battery life estimations from Apple are based on Apple's theoretical usage, which includes a certain amount of screen on time and interactions. And that varies from case to case. Okay, now that we've talked about the specs and features, let's talk about how to turn it on your Apple Watch. So on my Apple Watch Ultra I have here, I can go into the little settings icon here, scroll all the way to the bottom of my settings list, and then I'm going to go to the workout options here. And now I've got 2 toggles I need to enable. The first one is the standard low power mode up top here, and it says turn on low power mode during a workout to save battery life. And then if you click on this little link here, it'll tell you more about what low power mode actually does. And then if we go back and you scroll down a little further, you'll see a new setting, and it says fewer GPS and heart rate readings, preserves battery life, in walking, running, and hiking workouts by reducing the frequency of GPS and heart rate readings and turns off alerts, splits, and segments. So that's another thing to note. You won't get splits, alerts, or segments while you're running with this mode enabled. Now, if I dive in to do an outdoor run, for example, and click on here, I get a little prompt, and it's actually a warning telling me about the low power mode that I've just enabled. It says fewer GPS and heart rate readings. This preserves battery life, but reduces the frequency of GPS and heart rate readings during your workout. And then there's two buttons. I can restore full GPS and heart rate accuracy by clicking here, or I can click continue if I'm okay with that and I know what's going to happen. So when I say reduced accuracy, what does that actually mean? There's a couple of things here. In that reduced accuracy mode, GPS samples are going to happen every 2 minutes instead of every 1 second. That means your position is going to update every 2 minutes instead of every 1 second. And if you're running really fast and you're on a very curvy switchback kind of course, that's going to be a problem. And when it comes to your heart rate, that's going to be sampled once per minute instead of once per second. And again, if you're doing interval training or anything like that, you're going to miss a lot of information because that's only sampled every 1 minute instead of once per second. Even though these numbers sound kind of scary with a GPS update every 2 minutes and heart rate every 1 minute, Apple is doing some magic behind the scenes using computational algorithms to leverage Apple Map data and various sensors of the watch like the gyroscope, compass, and barometer to fill in the gaps in your GPS position and your track. So to demonstrate this, I've gone out on a few different runs while wearing the Apple Watch Ultra in low power mode with reduced accuracy, while also wearing my Garmin Forerunner 955 with full-blown accuracy and multi-band GPS as a baseline of comparison. Looking at some of this test data is super interesting. First thing I did was take these two watches out on a 5K road run. And what you're gonna notice is that at a high level, the tracks from the Apple Watch Ultra in reduced accuracy low power mode and the 955 look pretty similar when we're zoomed out. However, when I zoom into the track, you're going to notice some issues. For example, on most of the corners, you're going to see that the Apple Watch Ultra actually cuts the corner. It misses the radius of the corner and just kind of cuts straight across it, missing all of that information. And then in another example, on a certain road run I did, I actually intentionally switched sides of the road while I was running on it. So I went from the left side of the road, crossed over to the right side of the road, back to the left side of the road, just as an example to see what would happen between these two watches. And as you can see, the Forerunner 955 picked up this pattern from me crossing the road left and right, and the Apple Watch Ultra completely missed that. There's also a couple of other examples where I intentionally went down a road a couple of 100 feet, then I turned around and continued my course, so kind of an out and back kind of thing, where the Garmin Forerunner 955 would pick that up, and the Apple Watch Ultra just totally missed it. One thing I did find really interesting about this example on the road run is that the total distance between these two watches was almost exactly the same at the end of my run. The Garmin recorded 3.35 miles, while the Apple Watch Ultra recorded 3.37 miles. That is a very small amount off between these two watches, and the Apple Watch Ultra was in that low power mode, which I found really interesting, and that just shows how Apple is leveraging Apple Maps data when you're on a road run. Now that we've talked about road running, I want to pivot and talk about trail running and hiking, because I think that's the application that most people are going to want to use this extended power mode in. Now, trail running and hiking with this low power mode gets really interesting because, like I said, Apple is leveraging Apple Maps data to fill in the gaps in your GPS position. And that works great when you're on a road and you've got a perfect map of that area. However, when you're on a trail run or a hike, that area may not be in Apple Maps. They may not have data for the trail that you're actually on. So here's an example of a trail run and hike I did while wearing the Apple Watch Ultra in reduced accuracy low power mode and the Garmin Forerunner 955 in full-blown multi-band GPS mode. And as you can see, there is a huge discrepancy between the tracks. One looks pretty bang on, it's actually following the contour of the trail pretty well, and the other one looks pretty terrible and just looks like a jumble of straight lines. And even more interesting than the actual GPS track is the total distance recorded. So on my Garmin Forerunner 955, it recorded 1.62 miles, and on the Apple Watch Ultra, it recorded 1.3 miles. So that's a significant difference, and a lot of the activity is missing here. Okay, now that we've talked about the GPS accuracy in this new low power mode, let's talk about the other big piece of the pie here, and that's going to be heart rate accuracy in this new low power mode. And as you can see here, it's it's not great. These graphs are pretty interesting because as you can see, the Apple Watch Ultra in this low power mode is missing a lot of the dips and highs that the Garmin HRM Pro chest sensor is picking up. However, I will give some credit to Apple here because it does seem like they're using some computational power to make this heart rate graph look better than it actually would. It seems like they're taking some averaging and smoothing and trying to paint a better picture of the heart rate graph as a whole. It's definitely missing a ton of information, but I think if you weren't comparing it directly to an ECG sensor, it might keep you in the ballpark of your exertion level for that particular activity. It is by far from accurate. It's not going to be bang on, but it might give you an idea of your high and low heart rate values during that activity. Generally speaking though, I would not rely on this heart rate data using the low power mode on the Apple Watch Ultra. You're taking a big hit in accuracy, of course, for the sake of battery life. Speaking of battery life, let's talk about my real life experience using this low power mode and what kind of battery life I was getting from the reduced accuracy setting. I gotta say, it's pretty darn impressive. So I took the Apple Watch Ultra in low power mode with reduced accuracy out on a 1 hour activity. And at the end of that 1 hour activity, I went from 100% at fully charged down to 99%. I lost 1% during a 1 hour activity. And if you do the math on that, that would add up to about 100 hours of use in a GPS activity, which is kind of bonkers. Now, of course, I would not expect to get over 100 hours with the Apple Watch Ultra in a GPS activity, even with this low power mode, because if you do anything like check your email or check your time more often or turn up your screen brightness or something like that, that'll all affect the battery life of the watch. And that's where Apple's theoretical estimations come in and where their 60 hours of use is probably more realistic because it's including all of that other stuff. Okay, now that we're nearing the end of this video, it's time for final thoughts and my conclusion about the Apple Watch Ultra and this new low power mode. During my road run tests with this new low power mode, I was thoroughly impressed because not only did the GPS track look decent on a map, but also the overall distance of the Apple Watch Ultra was pretty darn close to my Garmin Forerunner 955, which is pretty impressive. That being said, even though the road running experience is pretty cool with this new feature, I feel like most people won't be using a low power option for road running because most people going on a road run will probably max out at a marathon distance. And for that, you could use the standard battery settings out of the box and still be fine and get full GPS and heart rate accuracy. And that's where I'm a little bit perplexed because I feel like most people using this low power mode will want to use it in a trail running or hiking environment, whether you're backpacking or a thru hiker, or you're doing an ultra marathon or a long distance trail run. In all of those scenarios, that's where you'd want this extended battery life option. And in my testing so far, that's where this option kind of falls short. In some situations, this accuracy thing may not be an issue. Maybe if you're a thru hiker and you're walking for the most part at a couple of miles per hour. But if you are a fast packer or a trail runner, you're definitely gonna notice a hit in your overall GPS accuracy. And honestly, for me, I'd be nervous to use this in a ultra marathon environment, for example, because if I run 100 miles, I wanna see 100 miles on my watch at the end of the activity. It would kill me to see it like 92 miles when I hit the finish line at the end of my ultra marathon. And that's really it. That's my experience with the Apple Watch Ultra and the new low power reduced frequency option that has a long name and what I think about it so far. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, please consider giving me a thumbs up and subscribing to the channel down below. That really helps me out. And if you're planning on picking up an Apple Watch Ultra, a Series 8, an SE Gen 2, check out the links in the description down below because they do help support this channel and they cost nothing extra to you. By the way, I do want to hear from you in the comments down below. Let me know if you've been testing this option on your Apple Watch. Did you download the beta? Are you going to wait for the full release? And what do you think about it so far? Let me know in the comments down below. I would love to hear from you. And yeah, that's it. I gotta go now. I'll see you next time. Bye.